All
Okay.
right.
So, Alexander, thanks so much for joining me here today. Having alums talk about their educational and the career experience is so much helpful for our current students. So, I so much appreciate it. Um, we decided that what we'll do is I'll ask you questions and we'll just keep going back and forth. Sounds good?
hmm Sounds great.
Okay, great. So, let's start out with where you grew up and if it was in Santa Cruz, which high school you went to, and then how you got interested in engineering, which engineering major, and why choose Cabrillo, and what was your experience there?
Sure.
Okay.
So I grew up in Pacifica, California, which is about an hour and a half north of Santa Cruz. I went to Terra Nova High School, which is in Pacifica. But shortly after that, I started looking at junior colleges because I wanted to continue my education, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted right out of high school. So I took my time. And in that process, I actually found myself in Santa Cruz. A lot of my friends went to the University of Santa Cruz, and a lot of them transferred out, but majority of my friends from high school went to UC Santa Cruz. So I was drawn more there because I had a network. Um, and during that process, I found Cabrillo uh, because of its high ratings for education, but also the staff that was there and the interpersonal staff. So you'd be able to like get to know your professor, get to know your classmates because it's smaller groups. And that's one of the things that I saw at UC Santa Cruz is all my friends went to UC Santa Cruz. So I got to sit into a couple classes, college classes for free, which is just a nice lens into what a 300 person room looks like, and then what a lecture looks like for 2.5 hours with 300 people either asleep or not paying attention, or just not really into it because they don't really know why they're in that class. So that's why I looked at Cabrillo because it was close to home or friends. It had high ratings, great professors, and just overall great reviews. Um, Going into engineering major, right? So what got me interested in engineering? I knew from a very young age that I wanted to do something on a creative side. And architecture was one of the things that really drew my eye as I got 17, 18, 19 years old. I really liked drawing. I really liked buildings. And I also liked the materials that were on the building, like the touch and the feel of what's actually happening. Like stonework feels so much differently than steel. And why is steel cold? And why is aluminum different than steel? All these questions started coming to me around like 19, 20 years old. And that's about the same time I started looking at junior colleges. So what got me interested in engineering was just understanding the material world and understanding the science behind why we choose the materials that we do and how those things work together. Now, looking at both architecture and engineering, right? I knew I wanted to do something with architecture, but I also knew that to better understand the architectural world, I need to understand the engineering world so I can make myself a better architect. And that's why I got interested in engineering because I knew I had to go first understand the materials down to the molecular, chemical, whatever level I can, also from a mathematical and physical standpoint, because all those things play into architectural realms. Um, so I started doing some research, right? As I was at Cabrillo, I took a couple classes. One of them was a hand sketching class that was coupled with AutoCAD. So I was able to really draw things by hand, but then input that into a computer. And I saw the relevance between those two. And then MATLAB as well, taking those forms, making it 3D, making them move, and then also printing them. That was a huge plus to my career as to where I am now, because I understand those things from a very minute detail, but also how it works and why it works, and the overall intent of why it's being created. Um, yeah, what was a engineering
Yeah,
major that
yeah.
I
So
chose? Yeah,
then that's why it's, yeah. Yeah, so then so you wanted to link something creative, and engineering is creative, and you
correct.
always like building. So that sounds like then you decided, and you probably in engineering 5 learned about a degree of architectural engineering, right?
That was the
Which
first time I ever heard of
okay,
architectural engineering being put together. And I
okay.
didn't know at the time that you could actually put those two. I thought it was always separate.
Yeah.
And in recent
Oh,
years, I would say in the past 15-ish years, architectural engineering has really taken off. And it's become a player within the architect realm and the engineering realm. Not many
Yeah,
people have those types of things put together.
yeah,
Normally, it's split down the middle.
yeah.
So looking at that
Mhm.
as well is something that interests me is bridging that gap.
Cool. Okay, so then you're at Cabrillo and now you're getting near transferring and you're
Mhm.
starting to look at universities. And what did you decide to do? And then talk
So
about your experience at that university and what things you were involved in.
sure thing. So as a person putting myself through college, I had to look at how much money I had savings wise, how many jobs I could do while going to school full time, if I wanted to go to school and not have to work. All those things were factors. So I looked at the state of California. Cal Poly is a great choice, however, difficult from a money standpoint, but also from a well, just overall money standpoint, really.
Yeah.
So I looked at other states. Um, and Wyoming, the University of Wyoming was one that caught my eye because of their architectural engineering program. They had one of the leading ones within the Western states, along with California, of course, but it was something that drew my attention because it was similar to Cabrillo. So you had smaller classes, you had interpersonal teachers where I got my phone number. I got the phone number of my mechanics materials teacher, and we still text to this
Mhm.
day. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
um, but that is why I chose the University of Wyoming because
Okay.
there's more to the outside world than just California.
Yeah. And then I know you were a leader at University of Wyoming as well in architectural engineering. So why don't you explain what that was about and what you did, and then
Sure.
any internships you had when you were at the university?
Sure, sure. So I was the vice president of the Architectural Engineering Institute in 2018, and then I became the president in 2019 and 2020 for the institute. And what that institute does is it brings together like-minded individuals from different colleges that are in civil, that are in structural, that are in mechanical, plumbing, all types of engineering, but then it links those back to architectural
Yeah.
students. So again, with the whole bridging the gap between architects and engineers, there's sometimes a disconnect where engineers think a certain way and architects think a certain way, and sometimes you're not able to bridge those two things.
Mm.
So that's what the institute did: is pooling like minds, but then finding ways to connect and also get to know each other. But network was the biggest part, and being diverse in that network.
Mm. Cool. And then did you have internships when you were at Wyoming?
I did. I had one internship. Actually, no, I had three internships.
Wow.
The first internship was J.R. Butler, which was a high-rise facade glassworks company. And what they did was create curtain wall systems. And during that internship, I spent about a month and a half at the company, and I helped build curtain walls, but also watched them being installed, and also did the quality assurance with the installation of that process. So,
Could you describe what a curtain wall is?
sure thing. Curtain wall is a window glazing wall system that's basically all windows. And it's non-structural. So it's a wall that's glass that hangs from level to level. And that's how
Mm.
you do high-rise windows. Well, that's why you see a
Mm.
lot of the buildings in like San Francisco that are high up and have all glass. That's a curtain wall.
Okay. And was this company in Wyoming or were you working somewhere else?
So this was in Colorado.
Wow.
And it
Okay.
was actually a traveling internship. So I traveled
Ah,
all throughout the state of Colorado doing projects
nice.
in Golden, in Boulder, down in Colorado Springs, and they paid for all of my travel and everything. But it was me getting exposure in different parts of the state
Yeah.
at different buildings. So each
Great.
building was its unique individual style.
Great. And you said you had a few internships. How were you able to get those internships?
Um, a lot of my background before I came to the University of Wyoming. So while I was living in Santa Cruz and going to Cabrillo, um, I took that class. I forget the name of the class. I believe it was Engineering 25.
Yeah.
Um,
Engineering 25.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, I
took that
think
class.
Groppy was the teacher.
Karen
And I
Groppe.
and I think she got you an internship, didn't she?
She
Yeah.
she introduced me to an individual that also took her class, and
Okay.
I actually worked with him. His name was Pete, and we did
Barnum?
design work.
Hmm.
Yes, I believe that is his
Okay.
last name.
Okay.
And yeah, we did design work where he had his own design firm, and
Right.
I worked with him
Great.
pretty much every day.
Yeah.
So very similar to AutoCAD.
Yeah.
It was kind of the back door into where I am currently.
Great. So you had internships at Cabrillo already. Awesome.
I had internships at Cabrillo, and then that experience that I had was on my resume.
Mm,
And while I was at the University of Wyoming, I got two more internships for higher up education within the university
okay.
because of my background in AutoCAD and my ecstatic love of Revit. I was able to get those internships through the school, so I actually got paid through the school to go to school, which is
Great.
pretty awesome.
Interesting. Okay, so you work with Pete Barnum in Santa Cruz,
Yes.
and then you worked in Colorado, and
Hmm.
then the other two internships were really internships on learning upper level work.
Upper level work,
Okay,
design
cool.
work of residential buildings and houses
Okay.
within the university campus.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
All right. So then now you're nearing graduation for University of Wyoming, and what did you decide to do along your path?
So, as I neared graduation, I actually started my own company. I started my own design LLC based in Wyoming, and I still have it actually today. And that was my fallback. In the event I didn't get a job at a company that I applied to, I had a good fallback where I would have stayed in Wyoming and worked the Front Range, which is the northern portion of Colorado, into the southern portion of Wyoming,
Mm,
doing kitchen models, bathroom models, full house renovations, design work for new buildings of houses.
yeah.
And that was going to be my portfolio into getting my architectural license with an
Mm,
engineering background.
okay, cool.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was something that you developed when you were there, and that was what you called a fallback.
Yes.
And what did you do when you moved forward?
What did I do? Okay, so I got a couple calls back because of the diversity of my background in design, but also engineering. And then I had a minor in structural design,
Mm,
and then a minor in interior design, and then architectural. I got
wow.
a job at J.R. Butler,
Okay.
um, of which I turned down within the first month. And then I worked for Pi Consulting and Engineering, which is a architectural engineering firm that does building envelope design.
And where are they? Where's Pi? And what's building envelope design?
Okay, so Pi is a, it's no longer called Pi, it's Lurch Bates now, but either way, Pi Consulting is based throughout the entire United States.
Okay.
Their main office is in Colorado. They have
Okay.
offices in Florida, Georgia, New York, Nebraska, um, California.
Okay.
And a job opening happened to open up right when I graduated
Mm, okay.
in California in the San Jose office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was like kind of homecoming, going to Wyoming and then coming right back. Um,
Okay.
and that, yeah, that's where I worked for the first year at Pi Consulting and Engineering for building envelope consulting. What that is you look at the exterior of a building, right? So you have the structure, you have the walls, you have everything, but then the outside of the building keeps weather, air, moisture, condensation, all these things outside of the building. That's what the building envelope is. It's
Envelope.
kind of like the exterior skin of the building, the structure. We look at materials, or at that time, we looked at materials, compatibilities of materials, weatherproofing barriers, air barriers, vapor barriers, self-adhered membranes that interface with windows, and how those rough openings are fully flashed in, making sure they're sealant where sealant needs to be to give it a full tight envelope so no air and water gets in or
Mm,
out.
okay, cool. Okay, and what did you do since Pi?
Since Pi, I
And what are
actually
you doing
got
now?
currently, I am a project manager associate level two at PBK Architects. I work in the Beam Professionals division, which is building envelope asset management. Um,
Envelopes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of the cool niche with architectural engineering is that you understand materials and you also understand architectural design. So making sure the architectural design fits with weatherproofing is extremely important.
Right.
And with the new technology that we have with materials and how those interact with each other, That's also really important. So my job is making sure those materials are compatible. They also look good and are constructible
Mm,
and also within budget.
yeah. And how long have you been working in Beam?
Beam, this is my second year.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm going into my 2.5 years
Yeah.
at this company.
So you're a project manager, and that's where a lot of engineers go. They'll
Yeah.
do engineering for a while and then move into management, managing full projects.
Well, the kind of funny thing with my position is that I'm also doing design work along with a little bit of engineering. So
Okay.
it's kind of like, yes, I manage a team, but a lot of what the team outputs, I have to review. So any details that they're drawing, I still have to review and correct in the event that something is not right, or
Right.
something needs a little more attention, or something
Gotcha.
needs a little more creativity on how to address a unique transition of roof to wall.
Right, right. So could you talk about maybe a favorite project of yours, whether it was when you were on an internship or at Pi or with Beam, whatever.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if you
Yeah.
have a picture to show us, that'd be great.
I could screen share this actually.
Great. Yep.
Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes, I can see your screen. Nothing popped up yet. Ah,
How
there it
about?
is. Okay,
Okay,
I see
so
it.
this is the Google Bayview campus. This is one of the projects I worked on
Wow.
from a building envelope standpoint when I was at Pi Consulting.
Okay.
It is, we call it dragon scales. These
Yeah.
are steel canopies with solar panels strung
Oh
about,
my.
and the water shedding of this is pretty intense as well. So, one of the things I was tasked with was ensuring that there was full building envelope continuity along all of these double curvature um, draped steel systems and how they interfaced with the windows that are
Wow.
within each bay. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a step function, right? You do a step
Yeah.
and then a canopy, then a window, then a canopy,
Right.
then a window.
Right.
My job was to ensure building an envelope continuity. So looking at the details, testing the windows, getting out there with a water sprayer and making sure that no water is getting through, and then
Okay.
also making sure that water is shedding properly from the entire system.
Wow.
This is one of my favorite projects. It's one of the most intense projects I've ever worked on
Wow.
because of its complexity, and the double curvature draping action
Wow.
was something I had never seen before.
Really
um,
cool. And it is in the Bay Area. I see Stevens Creek is there.
it is, yeah. So if I was to zoom out a little bit,
Yeah. Ah, yeah.
yep. So
Okay.
San Francisco, and it's
Yep.
right here.
Okay. Really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So I have two other questions for you. One is, how has your engineering degree impacted your quality of life?
Oh, number of things. Um, Number one, I have to say it makes me look at the world a little differently. Um, it makes me think a little bit more about my actions and what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis when it comes to garbage waste, how I put lights in the house, how I do upgrades around the house, and then also how I would say keep track of like my spreadsheets. With engineering, like you really get to know spreadsheets well, and you understand the ins and outs of how they work, and it actually
Yeah.
makes your life a little more efficient,
Yeah.
especially from a cost analysis standpoint. Like if I
Yeah.
go to the store and I buy something like a new power drill, I look at the life cycle analysis of how long I'm going to have it, and then at what point will it actually make me money. so,
Yeah.
so
That's
that's one of the
great.
ways that engineering has changed my life a little bit.
Yeah.
What was the other question?
Cool. No, you got that. The quality of life. So it's like the quality of life that you have because you have an engineering degree.
Yeah,
So it makes you approach even home or family problems with an
family, like
engineering. Yeah.
the way I interact with people, like everyone's got their own style, but at the end of the day, it's just how you communicate,
Right.
right? And engineering has helped me communicate in a much
Yeah.
better and I would say more fun way.
Great. Okay. And the other question is, if you were to look back at being an 18 or 19-year-old and thinking about you're going through Cabrillo again and through a university, is there some things that you would do differently, or what are some things that you would suggest, or maybe one thing that you would suggest to a student who's beginning in engineering that would make their path easier, or things that you learned the hard way, or
Sure.
what things you did that you thought, oh, this is great. I would definitely have done this again.
You know, I wouldn't have traded it for the world. My time at Cabrillo shaped me into the person I am today. Um, I would say advice wise, um, the math will be hard, the physics will be hard, but it's so worth it.
Mm,
Even if you don't have the math mind or the physics mind, you can still put your mind to it and learn how to speak the language because it really is a language. And once you understand the language, it never goes away. It stays
mm,
with you forever. It's just about understanding and putting the effort in because the effort is so necessary.
mm.
Um, yeah, that's
Yeah,
my advice is, keep
yeah,
going. If you're having a hard time, people are there to help.
yeah,
Cabrillo has the people that are there to help.
yeah. That's great. Well, thanks so much. I really
It
appreciate you taking the time to have us be able to do this video and provide it to students. Let
was
me
my
stop the
pleasure.
recording for a moment.